out as close to 7:30 as possible. My name is Dolores Bailey. I'm the Executive Director of Empowerment Incorporated, one of the sponsors for this event. I see some of you out there that I know. Hello. We'd like to thank Next, Molly and Allison, CEF, IFC, and let's give a round of applause for our sponsors. A few pieces of housekeeping that we need to tell you all about. We hope that you will hold your applause. I know there are going to be some amazing things that people will say, but it takes some time when you clap. So if you just snap or raise your fingers, wiggle your fingers, anything like that, so that we can continue on. Also, just want to remind you where the bathrooms are. I know you've come all the way around, and this is my first time being in the amphitheater, so it's really neat to be over here. But back around to the corner, to my left, the restrooms are that way, close to the parking lot. What we're going to do is do this very orderly. We're going to ask the candidates. Each candidate gets asked a question. We'll wait for their response, and then we'll move to the next person. You will each have a time and opportunity to answer the questions. We have timekeepers in the audience. Will you raise your hands? They have 1 minute and 30 seconds is the last one, and then they will lift their hands and say when you've gone, if you've gone over. Okay? That good? Let's get started. Welcome to Carborough. We are excited to be a part of the Carborough Candidate Forum. We will start the evening allowing each candidate to introduce themselves. They'll have 2 minutes for that. And we'll start with the mayor candidate who is running unopposed, Ms. Barbara Fouché.
What's up, y'all? We're going to keep it light tonight, seriously. My name is Barbara Fouché. I currently serve on the CarrboroTown Council. I have been in service since 2017, re-elected in 2021, and I'm in the middle of my second term as I seek the seat of the mayor for the town of Carborough. I want to share something funny real quick that happened to me when I was first running in 2017, because I know we're all nervous up here. This running for election is, you know, it's not easy. You know, and we're all human beings. So I was at the forum, and, you know, the opening statement, you know, I stood up. And as soon as I stood up, I forgot everything that I was going to say. Everything. Everybody started laughing. You know, I just, you know, I sat down. And then later on, I was like, I remember what I was going to say. Can I say it now? So that's just kind of like an icebreaker. There's a little bit of nervousness, you know, around doing all this. But, you know, we're bringing the best that we have to you this evening. So why am I running? That's a $64,000 question. I'm running to elevate my service to community. I have 5.5 years of elected service. I bring a wealth of community service, engagement, and activism along with me. And I'm really excited about that because I also lend my voice to many causes. I serve and have served with multiple organizations. And so I've really been engaged in community. And to know community, you really have to be engaged in community. So considering what happened in 2017, I am probably the only one up here that probably has notes. I have notes because I don't want to forget. So many different things that I want to share with community in this time that I'm seeking the mayor's seat. And so I'm just thinking about understanding the local government process, which I do. You know, this is the way that we serve you through the local government structure and processes. What does Barbara Fouché care about? Well, I care about you. I care about community. I care about community building around issues that matter to all of us. We want to bring everybody along. Everybody needs a seat at the table. It's not a matter of wanting to have a seat at the table. It's about needing a seat at the table. The implementation of our comprehensive plan is very important, where the big pillars are race equity and climate action. Housing affordability is absolutely at the top of my list. The expansion of our local and regional transportation pictures, stormwater management, economic development. The list is long.
Ms. Bashir?
In this community of 22,000 people, and I've been talking enough, and Dolores Bailey has called my name. I thank you for being here, and I hope this forum is informative for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am finished with this timekeeper, so if you go over, I will either stand up or call your name one way or the other. But we are going to have fun tonight. And just as she passes the mic, I just want to remind everybody that 2 minutes is what you got. And then I've got a whole 3 pages of questions for you. So I promise you'll be able to say everything you want to say. Sir.
Good evening, buenas tardes. I am Eliezer Posada, currently serving on the town council. I was elected last year, and I'm very proud to say that I was going to say stand, but I'm actually sitting. I sit before you as the first openly gay Latino elected in the state of North Carolina. And part of the reason I say that, it goes into why I decided to run in the first place. From a very young age, a son of migrant workers, organizing in their own right, I learned that we have family, we have our community, and we have each other. And all of our work should be directed supporting our community, our family, and each other. So when I first came to Carboro about a little bit over 6 years ago now, I thought I was coming for maybe a year. I was like, I got a cool job with a nonprofit that I love. I got a good apartment that was, fortunate enough to find. And I'm like, you know what? This is a cool little hippie town. And I like it. But I'm like, I'll be out of here in a year or two. I'll be out of here in no time. But I fell in love with the community. I fell in love how welcoming Carboro was to me. I fell in love with the values that this town holds, and I'm running for re-election because I want to help steward our town, our leadership, our government towards fulfilling every single one of those goals and values for our community. So thank you all for being here, and I'm looking forward to the competition.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I am Catherine Frey. I'm the first of the newbies you're going to hear from tonight. I have never run for elected office before. And my first involvement in government, or at least advisory roles in Carboro, was 11 years ago when I got involved in a neighborhood protest against a development. There was a Family Dollar planned to go at the foot of our neighborhood, and the developer came and talked to one of my neighbors. There's one of my neighbors sitting up there, but another one of my neighbors, and said, we're going to clean up your neighborhood. I can tell you that Anissa did not take that very well. None of us took that very well. And so we had a march up Jones Ferry. We got in front of the town council. And we told them what we thought. And I was surprised that what I heard after that was, hey, you kind of got a knack for this stuff. You want to join the planning board? Oh. And 11 years later, I've served as the chair of the planning board twice. And then I got involved in all the minutiae of our land use ordinance. I was like, I like this. I'm a bit of a nerd. I really enjoy the minutiae of the policy, and I've learned a lot about how we build things in Carboro, and in particular, how we keep failing to build affordable housing. So that is the core of my platform, with a couple of other goals, which I'm sure you'll have plenty about from me later. I also got involved in our comprehensive plan task force, where we had a very an unprecedented for Carboro outreach to every person living in Carboro to try to learn from you all what your values are for the town of Carboro. And now that that plan's been passed, I look around and I say, well, how am I going to take this to the next level? How am I going to share my experience with just a few more people? And the next step for me is to run for town council. So I appreciate you coming out to listen to us tonight. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Jason Merrill. I'm running for CarrboroTown Council. I'm also a newbie to the elected thing, although I did serve on the transportation board in Chapel Hill for 6 years. I've lived here for 22 years, so, and like a lot of folks, I've kind of bounced back and forth between Chapel Hill and Carborough, but all within about a mile of downtown. So I feel like I have a strong sense of community, even though my address has sometimes been 516 and sometimes 510. So yeah, I have been here long enough to see things change. I thought it was expensive and unattainable when I moved here, and now I wish I had a time machine, because it has become a de facto gated community, and things are changing, and they're going to keep changing, and we can either sit back and watch them change, or we can take a hand in that and make sure that they change in the direction that fulfills our highest values, a place that includes working families, a place of opportunity, a place that's sustainable, and a place that we all love and can be, and that our friends can join us here. So, thanks.
Good evening. My name is April Mills, and I have been active in the community for 20 years throughout the Triangle. I have been a graduate of Leadership North Carolina, which is a year-long program throughout the state where you travel and you learn about economic development, health issues, affordable housing, education, other type of issues. I've also traveled to inner-city trips with the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce, where you travel to different cities and you learn about issues that are impacting other cities, whether it's parks, again, school system, economic development, issues that really matter and impact these towns, how they passed public transportation, and other things that really matter around homelessness and affordability. So those are all things that I have been active in for really 20 years as a working professional in the Triangle. I've lived in Chapel Hill, Carborough for, 20 of those years, 10 in Carborough. I have 2 kids in the public school system, and I really see our school system as a large economic driver for our community, and I really value what our community offers for many in this community. So my main reason and passion for running is stormwater, which is very sexy, and I understand that is, very sexy. But I've been learning a lot about stormwater, and we have a lot of issues around stormwater and flooding that impact a lot of people in this community, and impacts a lot of people that are in affordable housing. And these are things that need to be fixed around infrastructure, especially along public transportation, sidewalks, bike safety. So those are things that I'm very passionate about, and I want to see kind of corrected within the city. Thank you.
Thank you, April. If you'll hold on to the mic. Tonight, I'll
Make
tell
it
you,
good.
they're all good. Tonight, I'll tell you how this is going to work. Each question will be directed to the candidates. You may or may not get all of the questions, but you'll have an opportunity to answer them. They pertain to aspects of transit, equity, and affordable housing. You will notice the theme of equity throughout, because the most valuable and underserved populations among us are the most susceptible to impacts and the least able to spend money to adapt. Your first question, April, I will hand to you. We see people experience homelessness every day in our community. What have you already done personally to provide assistance to people who are on a fixed income, are low income, or have no income? And how are you going to make sure that this specific population is taken care of now and in the future? And the second part of that question, if you are elected, how would you use the budget that you've been given to support this specific population, the fixed income, low income, and no income?
I guess I'll start with homelessness first. I don't want to see anybody really without a house, and having options is a great concern of mine. I know we have 3 encampments throughout the town, and I think their needs vary differently. Having a place of shelter that they can go to and seek the support that they need and help, along with giving, a place to shower, a place to get job support, to have retraining into a workforce, whatever that is needed to help that group of individuals. I've seen other cities, San Diego preferably, that when they greet people off of buses that have been shipped into the city, they provide them immediately housing, and they provide a counselor to them, and they immediately help them with their medication and getting them back in touch with their families and helping them get jobs within the government to pay for that housing to get them back home and rebuild those bridges. And so that, we have different issues within our town. We don't have people being shipped into our town that would need help. That's a different kind of support. But however best I can work with the nonprofit groups or others to support them with those needs and to get those individuals, the help that they need is important.
Could you repeat the question?
We see people experiencing homelessness every day in our community. What have you already done personally to provide assistance to people who are on fixed income, or low income, or have no income? And how are you going to make sure that this specific population is being taken care of now and in the future? The second part is, once you get a budget from the town, what do you think you'll be able to do when you've been able to get, how would you use the budget that you've been given to support this specific population? Fixed income, low income, no income.
Okay. All right. So first part, thank you. What have I done personally? I have spent many years in doing volunteer work. So I learned how to fix bikes at the Recyclery, which if y'all are familiar with is our local bicycle building nonprofit cooperative. That was providing no-cost bikes to community members, providing no-cost bike repairs. Bicycles are, for me, have for me personally been a very valuable tool for keeping my cost of living down. It's a tool of affordability. Obviously, it's a low-impact tool. Around here, it's also apparently a big form of recreation. But for me, it's primarily transportation. I do enjoy it, but spent several years working with an organization called Food Not Bombs, providing, again, no-cost meals for anyone that needed them, using materials that would otherwise have been discarded from our local grocery stores. Weaver Street Market was a big donor to that. I spent 15 years running a small retail bike shop here in downtown Carborough, and I have one, so that's very distracting. And I recently sold that so that I could switch gears and do something else with my time. And the very first thing I did was I went back to volunteering. I spent one afternoon a week at IFC's kitchen, which I loved, and would be back there again were it not for a series of unfortunate circumstances that I won't bore you with. I also volunteered at the food bank every Wednesday during that same period, and kind of went back to the Recyclery. Yeah, that's the personal side. Anyways, I have a long-standing commitment of, hands in the dirt, doing the work. That's what makes sense to me. That's what matters to me. How will I use the budget to put those values into wider application is something I would love to learn about and find out. But I'm going to admit, I am new to running a town's budget. So first thing I'm going to do is do a lot of learning and figure out what dollars are there, what dollars can be reallocated, and then my time is done. But I think in a town,
Thank you.
in a place this wealthy, we got to put as much as we can
Listen,
in there.
I see that we have a bunch of talkers, and so what I'm gonna ask Colleen to do is, once the 30 seconds are up, and they don't stop, just stand up for me, and I'll tell them to stop. Thank you for the paper and pen. That's so thoughtful.
I knew those index cards would come in handy.
Catherine, do you need the question?
No, I've got it. What have I personally done to give assistance to those on fixed income, no income, low income? Like a lot of people, not as much as I would like to. I spend a lot of my time working. I'm an IT consultant, and so my volunteer time has been relatively limited. I give a fair amount of money to IFC each year. That's not a particularly direct impact, though, although I do like to do that. A lot of my personal contribution has so far come in the form of policy advice. Through the planning board, where I've been pushing and pushing each development that comes through to say, is this truly affordable? One of the things that I'm most proud of has been being able to support the development that CASA did recently, which provided affordable housing to low-income and fixed-income veterans. In terms of the budget, man, I have a laundry list. Because if you think about what this means in Scarborough, so there's tiers, right? So you've got folks who are currently experiencing homelessness, and in Orange County, this is a very surmountable sized problem, right? We're talking about something in like the range of about 120 people who are experiencing currently or with fair regularity homelessness. That's the kind of problem you can actually take on as a community. That's the kind of, frankly, I think that the town has the capacity to build apartments for more than that number of people, just straight out. In the longer term, what I would really like to see the town doing is expanding all of our supportive housing services, our emergency rent assistance, our tax relief programs for elders, and a lot of the other projects that we are already doing, and also to focus on you know what, I'm going to stop there because you stood up.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So on the personal side, this may be something that folks know or may not, but in my life, I've experienced homelessness twice. First, when I was a child, and due to circumstances of after a divorce, my mother, my brother, and I came home to find that we didn't have a trailer anymore. So when we're talking about the impact of homelessness, it means quite a bit to me. So the second time was after I was already living in Scarborough, and due to a tragic fire, lost everything but the pants that the firefighters took me out of the apartment in, and everything that was in those pockets, so my keys and my bag. So when I talk about homelessness and how housing is impacting our communities, I come from a place where, on the personal side, my mother, brother, and I have worked tirelessly to house our community. I've actually hosted folks who lost their home in my own apartment. I am not the wealthiest person in the world, but I have donated to organizations, and I have worked my entire adult life in nonprofit work that is addressing issues that impact homelessness, whether it's immigrants or LGBTQ young people or just people of color altogether. So, and I know that that's a little bit deep, right? But translate that into my work on council. I have and will continue to support nonprofits who are providing essential services for our town. I have and will continue to support using the funding that we have and increasing the funding that we allocate to these organizations so that we're addressing these issues. And we need to look at how we're building and where we're building and how and all these, nuanced, nerdy details that at the end of the day are making sure, or we need to make sure that it address all of our needs in town.
Thank you.
And so homelessness, it's a very complex issue. But what I do know is that as long as people are sleeping on the street, as long as folks are paying more than 30% of what they bring home on housing, we're going to have to keep talking about affordable housing and keep working on affordable housing. This is what I do know. Housing is a human right. You just think about it sometimes, like, what would your life be like without 4 walls and a roof, a door to close at night, windows to close? It's just, I just couldn't imagine. I personally, I've never been homeless. Personally, also, I do donate time as well as money to the organizations that are in the trenches doing the work. Organizations like IFC and CEF, the NAACP has a voice in that periodically. And I also chair the Orange County Partnership to End Homelessness. where we really need to really think more of the mindset of centering folks that are impacted. What did you just do? Wait, I'm talking too long. So what am I going to do? I will continue to use my voice and my position on the issue of homelessness and housing. As far as budget, I am in favor of a participatory budget and also using a race equity lens on our budget, so that we can see where the benefit and the burden is and the inequities, because we don't have to do the budget the same way every year. A lot of times it really flies low under the radar. Thanks.
Thank you. Hold on to the mic, please. The second question is also about housing. Carborough is or is becoming unaffordable for many members of our community across the income spectrum, leading to displacement, which contributes to sprawl and increases vehicle miles traveled to work and to school. What are your ideas to assist all of our neighbors to be able to remain living in our towns? That's the first part. The second part is, do you support the town building 34 affordable homes on the town-owned land on Pathway Drive?
Give me the first part again.
Sure.
Just that end part.
So the end of the first question was, what are your ideas to assist all of our neighbors to be able to remain living in town? And the second part is, do you support the town building 34 affordable homes on town-owned land on Pathway Drive?
Okay, thank you for the question. And so, for the first part, I'm at 30% of the AMI or lower. These are some of our lowest paid workers in the community. These are service workers, bus drivers, and so when I think about affordable housing, I tend to start there. And I think, we can keep dedicating money. Carborough does have a dedicated revenue stream for affordable housing that I would like to see go up to 2 cents, on the tax rate instead of 1.5 cents. We have to keep finding ways to develop policy that supports that type of housing, continue to work with affordable housing providers, such as yourself and CASA and Habitat. And so these are the types of things that I think about when, providing housing for the least of these, is what I would call it. And the second question about affordable housing on Pathway Drive, the CarrboroTown Council has approved a policy. We have approved the framework to develop affordable housing, not only on Pathway Drive, I think also over on, I think it's Crest Street here in town. And so me personally, I support affordable housing wherever we can get it. But what I do know, at this particular stage, we are at the site survey, so we have to see what part of that land is even able to be developed, and certainly we will continue to have a very deep community engagement around that, because, we have, neighborhoods, surrounding that particular area, but I certainly support it. I would think compact, dense, going up, not sprawl. We certainly don't want to build anything that would be too environmentally taxing.
Thank you. What will you do to keep people in town? And do you like Pathway Drive?
Very good. Thank you. So, and this is a question, as far as what can we do to keep folks in town, has been a question that has been at the core of how I believe we need to address affordable housing in our town. First, we need to build more, period. We need more stock. One of the key issues is we just don't have enough place for folks to live. And while I like the 30% AMI, I just want to make sure that whoever works in town, regardless of what where they fall on this AMI scale, are able to live in Carborough. So the town, I believe, we need to pursue policies, whether it's through our Affordable Housing Fund or through creating additional funds or through some partnership with nonprofits or whatever it looks like. We can create places where our community can actually can afford to live here, right? We know that rent prices are going up. The NCGA won't allow us to control rent, but we can make partnerships, we can build more, and we can find ways of making it so that folks in town are able to stay, whether it's, and provide some support for that. As far as Pathway Drive, as our future mayor said, we are in the process of surveying this. I'm on similar lines. I want to build wherever we can. I want to build as much as we can, wherever we can. And you know, I'm encouraged by the fact that we have right now on council and folks who are looking forward to that. Forward to, well, not everyone, but folks on council who will have the majority in order to vote, so that we can have not only engaged community as to what this is going to be in fact, but actually address the fact that we need more stock. We need more places to house folks, and we need to find ways, not just in Pathway Drive, but at any town-owned property where it makes sense for us to build more, to build affordable housing. We need to do that.
Thank
I
you.
know you were about to get up, right?
So, I was just told that the people who are online can't hear us. So if you'll bring the mics closer to your mouth, just so we can hear, these are great answers, so. And he's gonna turn it up a little bit more. Now, I can be louder. I was trying not to. Go ahead, Catherine.
All right, so I will start with Pathway Drive, just to get it out of the way. Yes, I would support Carboro building as many units, and I would specify as many deeply affordable units. Carboro needs to be targeting where we're directly funding, directly building. We need to be focusing on that 30% of AMI and below, because that's an area where only subsidized housing is going to meet that need. So Carboro needs to be building as many units as the review of that site says it can support, whether that's 34 or a larger or a smaller number, right? What the review says that we can do and keep our stormwater guidelines, we should do. Okay, so this is the core of my platform. So keeping people in their homes, expanding our welcome for who can come and live in Carboro. So Carboro needs to continue to build and directly fund affordable housing on town-owned land. We need to collaborate with our partners who are already working on building affordable housing. We need to continue to expand our emergency funding, and that's rent assistance, that's our repair fund to help people stay in housing that's currently affordable to them instead of letting it break down. We also need to make sure that our design guidelines prefer compact, dense, walkable communities. Okay, I'm gonna get real nerdy now. You thought that was nerdy? Okay, now we're really getting nerdy. We need to overhaul our land use ordinance. We have a land use ordinance which is full of provisions that date back to the 1960s, and they were designed explicitly to make housing more expensive on purpose. And we need to fix that. We need to overhaul it, because that takes the pressure off of folks who are on fixed income. That relieves the pressure that makes it possible for someone to come in and scoop up a house, tear it down, and flip it, right? We have to relieve that in order to allow people to stay and allow more people to come here. Thank you.
So, on this subject, I think the best thing I can say is I agree with Catherine completely. So please vote for Catherine. And then also vote for me, and I'll be a +1, because Catherine is deeply knowledgeable on this, y'all. Like, I get the big picture, but Catherine is deep in the weeds. So yeah, values, obviously the logistics are there. For Pathway, can we only build 34? Can we get more than 34 on Pathway? I think, I'm kind of in agreement with, as much affordable housing as we can build. And again, it's both a general housing inventory problem. We don't have enough houses within our town limits. That is partly because we set our town limits very tight so that we could still have all this beautiful countryside and not turn into Charlotte, because if we wanted to live in Charlotte, we'll move to Charlotte. If you want to live in Carboro, let's stay in Carboro. We can be more dense, we can be more walkable without becoming Charlotte. And Catherine knows how to do that. So vote for both of us. Thank you.
So I agree. Affordable housing is a huge concern for many people. I respect the land when it comes down to it, and I understand stormwater. And so if a site is telling you can only build or do so much, I think you have to respect that out of it. It's not that I don't want more houses, it's that the water and how it impacts others is just as important, especially if it's going to increase costs on those individuals living around or in that housing. It also needs to be on a public transportation line, because then people will have additional access to do other things. Maybe not have 2 cars, maybe not have as much insurance costs, other things, right, that impacts that bottom line of your spending. So for me, Tim, it is about the land. It is about what is capable on the land. And I have not seen any sites, so I don't know what that looks like. You know, I do think it needs to match within a neighborhood and a community. And living in a community where it is mixed use, there is a lot of benefits. And I do believe a lot in the Community Home Trust and what they offer to the community. I live in a home where we have Community Home Trust and also Section 8 near us. You know, it adds a lot to our neighborhood, also to the senior living home that is available where people walk with throughout. So there's not an issue around those things. It's really comes down to how it works on the land and what is best. Thank you.
Thank you. Nope, we're gonna pass the mic down to
You're gonna be first sometime.
Jason. Jason will take it, we'll pass it to Catherine, that way, and then back down to you. So you'll have a minute, April. Chapel Hill just passed a housing choice for a complete community, also known as Missing Middle. And Carrboro is poised to follow that suit. What do you think of Chapel Hill's policy, just right, too much, not enough, and why?
So I think my understanding of Chapel Hill's policy, I would call it not enough. I think they backpedal too much to appease people who are scared of change. And I get it. Change is scary and fear is powerful. But if you look through fear, you can see opportunities. And I think that's what the job of town council is about. It's about seeing opportunities that are on the horizon and looking past the fear of change and moving towards those opportunities. As my friend Nate likes to call them, problem-tunities. So that's what we're looking for. And I think Carrboro, I am hopeful that Carrboro will not have the same pushback, that we're in the right time and place to make more effective changes at the policy level to have a better Carrboro moving forward.
Thank you, and thank you for being short, you only have a minute.
It's going to keep getting shorter, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
All right. I don't think that Chapel Hill went far enough with Missing Middle. They managed to add duplexes, right? We've got to go a little bit further. We need to go a little bit bigger than our bigger neighbor. We need to be having by right the kind of development that we would like to see. Right now in Carrboro, if you are building a single family home, you pretty much go to the planning department and you get your permit and you're done. And if you are building a duplex, you get raked over the coals. If you are building a quadplex, get ready, right? You're going to go through an enormous amount of review. We make it more expensive in terms of the regulatory costs. We make it more expensive to build a modest duplex than we do to build a mansion, right? Which is why that's what we're getting. We're getting mansions. If you make it easy to build expensive homes, and it's easier than building affordable ones, then that's what you're going to get. That's what we've gotten so far. So we have to change the way that we do our review. Missing Middle and Chapel Hill went part of the way.
So I think you're going to hear a trend here. Again, we need to go further. A huge part of addressing affordable housing is going to be addressing the missing middle. It's going to be making more strides towards having more units in town. So by building more quadplexes, I don't know I cannot pronounce it, y'all. I'm dealing with two languages. More than single family homes. Okay. So we need to build more. And to be honest, one of the things, and I'm glad that Catherine brought this up, is things that we've been dealing with the land use ordinance. This needs to be changed so that it's not an afterthought whether or not we're going to have duplexes or triplexes or quadplexes, but an eventuality, and that's part of the plan, and we don't have to go 15 rounds in order to get through step one.
Thank you. So I did follow that over in Chapel Hill, and that was pretty contentious. The pushback was real, and As we're all tasked as elected officials, to listen, to community, whether it's on our side or not. But I say let's do more. Addressing the missing middle is key. And I really don't have much more to add to that. I think having housing choice, such as quadplexes, triplexes, duplexes, it's the word of the night. I think that that's really important, and it's important to folks, who are trying to live in and access and be a part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. April?
I also would like to see more missing middle housing being built and more mixed-use development. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to talk about how we get around, and it will be 2 minutes on this. Catherine, let me start with you. You are running for council in Carborough, a town that's 60% comprised of renters, 40% residents of color, and where nearly 60% of households' incomes are under $75,000 a year. Our town conducts a survey every few years, that gathers statistically representative opinion data town-wide that finds that expanding greenways is supported by over 70% of Carborough residents and is one of the most widely supported policy priorities across residents of all incomes and backgrounds, as well as within neighborhoods with high concentration of low-income and minority residents. However, over the years, there have been a consistent pattern of vocal opposition to completing the Bowling Creek Greenway. That has come from some of the wealthiest neighborhoods in town, where in stark contrast to that overall town makeup, the residents are overwhelmingly white. Incomes exceed $120,000 per year, and more than 95% are, I am giving you the background. Let me read my question. That ain't even the question. 95% are homeowners. Recent coverage of the issue by Indy Week, WRAL, and the Daily Tar Heel has borne this out, with every Carborough resident opposed to the BCG in each news story being a wealthy older homeowner from one part of town. Here comes your question. This is one of those issues where there's a largely binary choice. The town will either complete Bowling Creek Greenway or it won't. What is your position on whether sections 3 and 4 of the Bowling Creek Greenway should be completed? And more importantly, what is your message to the large majority of the town residents, including renters, middle and low income residents, and people of color, who broadly support Greenway construction and expansion throughout Carborough?
And how long do I have to
That's
list?
a lot. You got 2 minutes.
2 whole, okay. Yes, Carborough should complete sections 3 and 4 of the Bowling Creek Greenway. It's among the reasons that I wanted to run is that working through the comprehensive plan project process, the comprehensive plan task force was occasionally asked whether we were going to talk about the Greenway, and we were told we don't talk about greenways. The town has gone through a very long process of working through the vocal opposition, right? Of making sure that everybody is listened to, of making sure that we have heard all of the opinions, that we have taken in all of that information. And we have been in that place for 19 years. It's time to complete the Greenway. So my message to the overwhelming majority of the town that supports the Greenway process is we're going to complete the Bowling Creek Greenway, and then we're going to figure out where the next Greenway goes, and the one after that, and the one after that, and then we're going to be talking about separated bike lanes, and we're going to be talking about shading pavement in neighborhoods that have been underinvested in so that people can walk comfortably, bike safely, and get to wherever they need to go by foot or by non-motorized wheel, or I guess by battery-powered wheel. Sorry, I defer to Jason on all bike technology-related questions. To me, this is a no-brainer. We're Carborough. We want to be that green, walkable, bikeable town, and there is very little that we can do as a town that supports that better than completing the Greenway. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so question, do you want to finish the Greenway? Your message to, yes, period. I think there's several opportunities here with the Greenway, and I've talked about this, and some folks are like, you're going to talk about the Greenway? Yes, I am going to talk about the Greenway because it's important to talk about the Greenway. First, this is a project that it's been going on. The last time the town took an action before reopening public comment was 14 years ago. That's way too long to keep community thinking or trying to figure out what's going to happen here. So one, it's just the process has been way too long, and we as a town have been cowarding to the most influential in town. And that's not something that I'm here for. One of the first things that I did when I got to our retreat as a council was talk about when are we going to talk about the greenways. And I was received with some vocal opposition, not from anyone at this table. But my point being, we need to bring this up. This is a part of our, a part of why I think, and continue to come back, that we need to be equitable and we need to have the voices of all our communities. Because of the fact that at the moment, it is not accessible. Not everyone in our community has equal access to it. OWASA is already going to go in there and do some work. So why cannot we go ahead and work with OWASA to make it accessible to everyone in town? Work with them to put in something that's going to be sustainable. And while we're there, let's work with our state and federal partners to find ways to heal the creek, because we know it's not in the best condition there is. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And my message to folks is whether it's you want access to a greenway or right now you're having to walk across a busy highway in order to take a bus, or you can't access the town, the part of town, because there is no way for you to do it without putting yourself in danger. You are who I'm thinking about when I'm talking about accessibility and when I'm talking about greenways and connecting and making sure that everyone in town has an equal access.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Barbara and then down to April, and Jason will be the last one on this question.
Okay, and so I do want to talk just briefly about the outreach. I know the town of Carborough has done extensive outreach at community events and also, through the survey, but I'm pretty sure that I could go around town and ask people, do you know anything about Bowling Creek Greenway? And they would say, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. So I say all that to say we're reaching people, but we ain't reaching all the people. So I will say that. In 2017, when I ran, this question was on the table: pave, no pave. And I certainly will say to you now what I said then. I do believe in connectivity and accessibility. I believe in that within our community. And also closing the loop, on 14 years. The conceptual master plan was approved back in 2009. Currently what's on the table is the alignment. We are still taking... I'm trying to get my wording here. The survey is still open. And so we're still seeking community input. I don't know where the council is going to land, with that, once the data is presented to us. And for me, I would rather wait to hear a little bit more from community. It is community's, purview, and that weighs heavy into my decision, but I do want you to remember what I said about connectivity and accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pass it down to April. You guys are getting work out. Thank you.
So I 100% believe in greenways and accessibility and people having options to move about town. I think that's key for children, families, everybody within the community. So, greenways are great. You stay healthy, you're outside, everybody it's just a benefit, especially through COVID and being locked in your house. I think all of us needed to escape, and that was one way I got to know Carborough really well, was just walking every day throughout the streets. So for me, there are 4 options that are available. I really don't think anybody knows the cost for all 4 options or the maintenance cost after they're installed. I do have a lot of environmental questions about the creekside alignment, and I know there's a talk about OWASA and the right-of-way, but from my understanding, they would be 30 feet from the OWASA right-of-way, and so I do have concerns over where the path would go. And so for me, it's about the quickest route to get the job done, right? And if children are using it to get to and from school, then the safest route is the quickest route, in my opinion. And so, again, I would like to see and understand all of the cost benefit for the town going forward in the maintenance afterwards. Thank you.
To only give me 2 minutes on this topic is torture.
You're wasting your time.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm going to go very big picture, and I'm going to go very small picture, and I'm going to give you a very clear answer. Bowling Creek is roughly 40 to 60 million years old. So to think that a species that's only 10,000 years old is going to have irreparable damage on a creek that old, it's kind of arrogant, isn't it? We're not. We're fine. The creek's going to be fine. What this issue is about is exclusive access. If we were really worried about the creek, we'd be lobbying to take the bridge down so no one could go there. What people lobbying against it are about is maintaining their access and not letting other people share that access. I love this forest. I spend every free minute I can get out there. I want everyone to share in the joy of our greatest natural resource, which is this enormous forest that we're right at the edge of. I won't even say losing, making those 2 miles more accessible to probably 10 times the number of people that are using it now would be a benefit to the whole community, as it would connect the stretch to the north, the stretch to the south. It would connect neighborhoods to neighborhoods, schools to schools, parks to parks. And just to be very clear, I'm talking about the creekside alignment. There are 2 other alignments that are on the table, but ask yourself this: if all 3 alignments existed, which one would you take every single time? And you would take the creekside because it's flat and it's shady and it's safe and it's beautiful. And we should do it. And we should do that every chance we get. Thanks.
Thank you. Jason, keep the mic.
Oh, Lord.
We are at round 5, and this is a 2-parter. And I want to say, this is the last question that I have for you. And what we're going to do is I'm going to give you 3 minutes on this, and then we'll wrap around one more time and let you finish up. Okay? So, 2 parts. Jason, is there anyone in your family or your life who uses Chapel Hill Transit on a daily or weekly basis? What have you learned about transportation challenges our community faces from that person's experience? The second part of this is, walking, biking, and taking public transportation are largely equitable, sustainable, clean, and accessible forms of transportation. Studies have shown that families who walk or travel by bike spend more money in the local economy than people who drive, and that active transportation in general improves public health. Carborough has had several bike and pedestrian projects take much longer to complete than predicted. From a bike lane to Carborough Elementary School on Shelton Street is the final design of the Jones Creek Greenway. What should the town do to improve the speed of construction of transportation projects that have been approved for some time but not built? You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so the first one, daily experience on Chapel Hill Transit. My daughter, who is now 27, believe it or not, I can barely believe it, she didn't like to take the school bus, so she rode the Chapel Hill public school bus to high school every day. For all 4 years, she went to Chapel Hill High when we lived in Northside, Chapel Hill. And she also used it to go to her friends' houses. I ride my bike everywhere because I'm too impatient to wait for a bus. What I learned from that was that we don't have enough buses. They don't run frequently enough. They don't run long enough. They don't go to places that working people need to get to. They're great at getting students to and from their classes, including my daughter, fortunately, as well as the college students. And obviously the UNC plays a big part of that, so that plays a big role. But it's an equity issue. We need to make sure that we're sharing our abundant resources with everyone according to the amount that they need them, not just giving everyone the same single dollar and saying, here, good luck. So yeah, we definitely need to expand that. What was the walking and biking one? What was that part of the question?
The last piece of it was,
How to,
is the town doing what they should do, and how will we move projects, construction, and transportation projects forward?
well, I'm guessing that's a money problem. So we need more money. How are we going to get it? I don't know. But I'm happy to learn. And I think we should definitely be putting a lot more money to that. Those, active transportation, multimodal transportation should be a very high priority for our community. It fulfills our values of sustainability, obviously. It's a great way to get out and about. And it's an equity issue. I mean, transportation is the number 2 expense for families after housing. So when we talk about affordability, we're talking both about affordability of housing as well as affordability of your entire way of life. And so if you can afford to live 1 mile from where you work and you can get there without having to pay for a car and insurance, then you can afford to live and thrive. And yeah, that's what we should all be doing. Thank you.
April? April?
So currently my kids ride public school buses. I work in Raleigh when I do drive, so I am driving just because of where we are and getting all the way downtown. I actually love riding the bus. I went to college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that's how you got around 100% of the time, which was great. I enjoy biking as well. If we had bus rapid transit and there was a way to get there, I would be doing it. I've actually thought about driving into Durham, taking the train. I've done that a couple of times because of traffic on 40. So for me, I would love to see bus rapid transit. I know it's coming in about a 5-year span. One thing that really upsets me and frustrates me is every day when I do drive on Rogers Road is seeing a mom and her child outside and there's no bus shelter. And they're in the ravine of where the water is waiting for the bus. And so for me, equitable solutions immediately would be going to fixing the shelters and providing something where you can actually tell that there is a bus stop, so you want to take the bus because it's safe, or if there's a structure above you protecting you from the elements. So for me, those things are key within public transportation, and I would love to see them built throughout our community, also connecting along 86 down to 54. And, there's a whole area of town where there is no bus, so there is no option. So, again, if we're going to build affordability in different areas, which comes first, the public transportation or the housing? Can we not do it all at the same time, which would be great? And then speed transportation projects, I wrote down, what was the last part of the question? I'm sorry.
The construction projects have taken a lot of time. What would you do about that?
Talk to somebody in the DOT and make really good friends with them and get the project done a lot faster, please.
Would you pass it down to Mr. Chief, please, for this? And Catherine, you'll end it.
So thank you for the question. And it's funny because I had a meeting with Brian Litchfield, Chapel Hill Transit, about a week or 2 ago. I'm just going over some things with him. And I think they really do amazing work with Chapel Hill Transit, our public transportation system. Some of the concerns I've heard from people have been service, involving the handicapped and how they're served by Chapel Hill Transit. And I think I heard Jason mention about, the frequency of service. And I think, that they're still down drivers. I think they've not fully recovered from the pandemic as far as having enough drivers. And so certainly that would impact the level of service that you get. Because I know for me, I don't see the bus go by my house nearly as much as it did pre-COVID. I drive to RTP every day. The bus system does not align with my work schedule. I, like April, I love the train. Hop on the train, when I can. And as far as the Jones Creek Greenway, I think money, funding. I think our town staff, which is without a transportation planner right now, and we haven't had one in a while. Yeah, it's been a while since we've had a transportation planner, and also maybe the DOT being a little more expedient. So when you put all those 3 things together, that's a recipe for stuff moving very slowly. through the town as it relates to our transportation efforts and greenways. Thank you.
All right. To the first part of the question, I live alone, and majority of my work I'm privileged enough to be able to do from home or at the General Assembly. So I don't use public transit as much as some of my neighbors do. But a big part of my work in town has been working with low-income and immigrant communities who do rely on our buses. And a big part of what I've heard and have seen, and also they've responded to some of the surveys that happened a couple of years ago, is the fact that we need to be more responsive to the workforce in Carrboro. Our bus system in many ways is student-centric. I get it, right? UNC does pay for a huge portion of that. But at the end of the day, if we want to make sure that folks are staying out of cars and helping our families, primarily those who may not have a car or have a single car, we need to look at ways to expanding access and creating new routes and looking at where does it make sense to build new ones so that our town, our workers in town are able to use that efficiently and not have to take 2 or 3 different buses to get to work that sometimes will take longer than if you just walk there. Right, so that's one of the things that I would like to see as we work with our system. On the part of walking and biking and how we make this faster. First, we have a couple of great plans that we just need to implement. Right, we have a great bike plan, we have a great strategies and comprehensive plan, and we just need to get that to happen. A big part of it is funding. We over the last couple of years in this last budget process, we increased some of the money that we were putting into our budget prices, but our budget for some of these projects. But the fact that one of the things that I wrote down here is working with staff so that we can let them know that this is a priority. One of the biggest parts of our role on the town council is letting staff know this is what we want you to do. This is how these are projects that we need to see coming sooner rather than later. So giving that direct guidance to staff saying we want to see these happen. We want to see these in the budget. We want to see these consistent updates of this happening. And I get we need more staff for that. We're looking for folks that are going to help us create that. So, but a big part of what council can do is continue to let staff know and working with staff so that they understand that these are a priority for us, that these are things that we want to consistently see, and that we want to make sure that these projects happen. And again, we have a great bike plan. Let's just get that done.
Thank you. So there are a number of people in my life who use the bus on occasion. My dad started riding the bus in Carrboro before he actually moved to Carrboro because nerdery runs in the family. And he loves the bus. And I've also taken it on occasion, but like Barbara, my job when I was not working remote as I am now was over in RTP area, and I tried several times and really just could not make the connections work. It would have taken me, I think, an hour and a half each way to commute by bus, so not feasible. That's not really the target audience though, right? The main audience that I'm thinking of is folks who are working places in Chapel Hill and working odd hours as well. It's really hard to get somewhere on Chapel Hill Transit if you're not following a student schedule. So one of the things I'd like to see improved first is our service hours and frequencies, especially during sort of workforce commute hours is where we need to focus. But Carrboro is getting a great deal on the bus system. We pay 18% of the budget, but we've got more than 18% of the population of the service area. So that's working really well for us, and I'd like to see us expand on that. In terms of bike ped project time, this is a tricky one. there's a few things that we can do as a town to help resolve that. We can't actually get DOT, unfortunately, to cooperate with us. That's a matter of time and luck and personalities. But there's a few things we can do. For one thing, the town council can be focused and disciplined about our priorities. We need to use a race equity lens and make sure that we are focusing on the most important projects first, not split our attention too far. In terms of how much attention the town can give, we need to fill that vacant transportation planner role. That person is key to moving projects forward, and as a town, we can't move projects forward without staff, so we need to prioritize that. Also, I think that this is something I've talked about in other issues, that I think there's some room for some additional staffing at the town in terms of finding folks to work with more grants, because one of the ways we could move faster would be to have more funding. So that would be another area. Thank you.
So I am standing because the next piece is for each person to have 2 minutes to say the things that you want to wrap up and make sure people know about you. I'm going to hand this, and then because I'm about to sneeze, I'm going to leave. You're hiding to sneeze?
Okay, sorry. So again, April Mills, and really stormwater made me do it. So I'm here to support stormwater and infrastructure, work with the town in regards to helping communities kind of face some of the issues that they're dealing with around ponds and other type of issues. So I just see flooding as something that impacts everybody around us, and would like to see this addressed and fixed along with infrastructure, and that's safety for bikes, that's sidewalks, that's shelters at the bus stops, and it's having access and more bus rapid transit. So thank you.
At the risk of being labeled the joke candidate, I'm going to end with a joke. I prefer to be thought of as the fun candidate, though. How many Chapel Hillians does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know, Jason.
Y'all know this one? 10. 1 to do it, and 9 to say how much better they like the old light bulb. There's a message in there. There's a message in there. You know, Carrboro's kind of guilty of that too, let's be honest. But I think not 9 of them are going to say how much better they like the old one. I think a lot of us are going to like what we see with the new light bulb in there. After that old burned out one is gone, we're going to like what it looks like down the road. Because we're doing pretty good. We've been getting better and better. We've gone through a kind of a rough time here these last few years, all of us. You know, that has nothing to do with town council, but things are getting better. So let's look forward. Let's look past the fear. Let's look for things that are better, because we can do it. All right, thanks. Vote for Catherine.
It will not surprise anybody that every time I meet with Jason, he's got a new dad joke for me. It's actually one of the high points. So we've talked about, in the course of this evening, a lot of the priorities in my platform, including affordable housing, right? Affordable housing is dense, it's walkable, it's connected, it's an equity issue for the town. We've talked about transit a fair bit. So I'm actually going to devote the last bit of time here I have to the third priority that's in my platform, which is climate resilience. We've talked about bike peds, so I'm going to leave it to the rest, which is about shade and stormwater, which are key to my platform as well. This is about the core of climate change. It's getting hotter. It's getting rainier in Carrboro. That's only going to get worse. We are doing what we can to reduce our carbon footprint, but that's a problem much, much bigger than our town. So Carrboro needs to be embedding in our work. One of the other leg on which our comprehensive plan stands is climate action. And that means making sure that our standards for building roads include not just bike ped facilities, but also shade, because we're going to need it. If you can't walk along the street, right, then that sidewalk is not doing anybody any good. If you can't get some shade at a bus stop, you're not going to ride the bus. And the other side is about stormwater. It's going to rain harder. And there's a pervasive myth that stormwater runoff and flooding is caused by new development, but it's flooding right now. The water runs off your yard and my yard and everybody's yard. So what I want to make sure that folks know is that as we're building affordable housing, that we're building that to the highest standard to help mitigate that flooding, and that the other thing I think Carrboro needs to do is make great use of its stormwater utility, which has been established since 2017, to start mitigating the existing flooding coming off of the places where we're all living today. Thank you so much.
First of all, I want to thank all of the sponsors at this event. These are all amazing organizations that do great work in our community, and I am not just thankful for this opportunity to talk to everyone, but also of the work that y'all do every single day. So thank you. We talked a lot about, again, some of the work that I want to see in council. We've talked about some of the key priorities, as Catherine and Jason have mentioned, but one of the things that I want to make sure that everyone here knows is that on top of housing and equitable transit, I'm also working not just with our current council, but anyone who wants to, on advancing equity in this town. We need to make sure that we have representation. We need to make sure that everyone who is impacted by the decisions on that council has a voice in that council. We need to talk about whether it is addressing affordable housing or transit or stormwater or a cemetery. We need to make sure that everyone who is impacted and who has historically been left out of the conversation is able to come in and be a part of it. And that the folks that sit on that council, on that dais, not only understands that we have an immense privilege of being in that seat, but a big part of our role, at least what I believe a part of my role, is to bring in those communities who have been left out. So I'm not only want to work on these issues with my nerd friends, but also make sure that every single person, whether they speak the language we do or not, whether they have the same socioeconomic status or don't, whether they have the same skin color or not, are able to be reflected on who sits on that council and decisions that are made. My slogan since last year has been making Carrboro home for all. I'm not kidding about that. I want to make sure that everyone in Carrboro, every resident, every person that visiting can see Carrboro a home for themselves. And I'm looking forward to working together to make Carrboro better.
Thank you. So first I want to thank the amazing organizations that sponsored this forum. Next, the Community Empowerment Fund, the Interfaith Council, and Empowerment. So thank you so much, and I do hope that this forum has been informative for all of you. And just really briefly, you know, the magnitude of this moment is not lost on me. You know, I truly stand on the shoulders of giants, one of which is my own husband, Braxton Fouché, Fred Battle, Velma Perry, Rebecca Clark. You know, it's a long list of folks. Some are still with us and some are not. And so the magnitude of the moment for me is, you know, it's definitely, you know, it's not lost on me to, you know, even be able to run, you know, for the mayor of this town, you know, to be able to serve on the town council, because there were people doing it long before I ever thought about it. And I'm just, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I'm sorry, I think I'm crying because I'm tired too. So, you know, I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about all of you, about touching people's lives while effectuating change. I will continue to hear from and engage with those who are absent from a local government table. They must have a voice. And, you know, I hope to serve you as the next mayor of Carrboro. And if elected, I'll be ready on day one. And finally, I'm going to do something Quentin's going to like. He's sitting here smiling at me. Quentin Harper was my first campaign manager, and I will never forget that. And he's been riding with me ever since. He comes when I call, and I do appreciate him so much. You down with B. Fouché? Yeah, you know me.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of the sponsors, which is CEF, IFC, Next, and Empowerment, we want to thank all of you all for coming out, and we want to thank you people for having the courage to run for these elected offices. So it's appropriate to clap now. We did have one that wasn't able to make it, and that was Miss Stephanie Wade. But otherwise, these are your choices. Please use your choice, your vote wisely. Please make sure you take someone with you to vote. These are important times. Thank you for your patience. Have a great evening.
I cried on that council.